Hi everyone and welcome back to National League Lowdown with me, Dan. I'm joined by Louis and Craig for our preview and prediction pod. Louis, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Dan. Once again, some good games to look forward to this weekend. A big test for my boys this weekend, our toughest test of the season so far as well, so looking forward to it from a personal and a league-wide level.
Yeah, there's some tough games to call this weekend. Craig, how are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. Looking forward to this one. Forest Green, Boreham Wood, two teams unbeaten playing each other. Sutton, Hartlepool, two teams that have won both their games playing against each other. So some things I've got to give this week as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into these games and seeing what you guys think to see if then I'm going to change my score prediction. But probably not because I'm flying at the moment.
Yeah, we'll come to the predictions at the end, and I'm sure you've already discussed them as well. Craig's absolutely flying at the moment. So if I've matched Craig's predictions, I think I'll be quite confident this week. Although Craig will probably be gutted if I have. So, we're going to do like what we've done the last couple of weeks, where we're going to preview each game in alphabetical order. So it might work out where I talk a lot at a certain point, but then I'll go quiet for a while as well. It might take Craig a while to come in as well, but we're just doing alphabetical order. So we'll start off first up. Louis, you're up, mate.
Yeah, so Boston against Altrincham kicks us off on the preview podcast. So a Boston side that come into it off the two in different results. A defeat to Altrincham on opening day, a 1-0 defeat at home before a 2-0 win against Solihull Moors. I think looking at the statistics and looking at their two games, over the course of them, they've looked quite good offensively going forward, which I think was quite a surprise considering what we said in all our predictions and on our preview stuff was that Boston defensively were probably going to be very good, but going forward might be where they struggled. They've turned the balance in that sense. And in the Aldershot game, they had 12 shots, 5 of those on target, and they racked up an XG of 1.64. When you look at the Solihull game, it's complete domination from them. 17 shots, 10 shots on target, a 3.59 expected goals figure for them. They easily could have won that game much more than they did in the 2-0 result, and Paul Hurst said it in his post-match as well. He said on another day we could have won by a bigger margin. So from their point of view, they're looking a bit better going forward, and if they keep those clean sheets, it could be they'll take some stopping, especially with the likes of Tom Curzons up front, Linnell John Lewis coming off the bench, and all the quality they've got going forward in midfield and attack. The only question is whether that Solihull Moors is a bit of a red herring considering where Solihull Moors are at the table. They weren't really tested in that game. Solihull only had 6 shots during the game. One of those shots was on target and they racked up an XG of 0.29, so a pretty measly figure from a Solihull Moors point of view. I think I mentioned him already, Tom Curzons. I think it's important for him to maybe get off the mark soon, because the longer that he goes on, the bigger the drought goes in terms of his goals, and then we start thinking, was last season a flash in the pan where he got something like 7 or 9 in 17 games, as good as that was? So I think it would be important for him personally to get off the mark. An Altrincham side that I watched in the flesh last week, back-to-back defeats for them, 3-1 against Southend at home on the opening day before last week's 1-0 defeat to Sutton United. They've looked fairly vulnerable defensively when they've been put under pressure. They've been looking to play out from the back, playing possession football, playing out from Owen Evans, but it's 2 mistakes in 2 weeks from Owen Evans last week. A horrendous mistake, just playing it to Temi Babiola under absolutely no pressure, and they're a bit toothless up the front as well. So Southend, although they did score, it came from a deflected shot from Barrow. They had 9 shots against Southend, 4 of those were shots on target, and they racked up 0.96 expected goals. And against my boys Sutton United, it was fairly non-eventful in their final third. 3 shots, 1 on target, which was a dribbled daisy cutter from Lucas Weaver, and they racked up 0.15 expected goals, so pretty much nothing in terms of chance creation last week. As I said, their pressure that they invite on themselves with playing it out from the back is just putting them in a spot above her. And when you play that kind of style of play, I think you need to have attacking threat going up the other end to counterbalance any mistakes that you get. And it doesn't seem to happen at the moment. There seems to be conflict between Gibson and his post-matches and the fans in terms of what they expect from their performances. Gibson said last week that they were the better side against Sutton and dominated the game. They dominated possession, but can you dominate a game when you only have 1 shot on target and rack up the XG that they did? I don't think you can. I think Altrincham fans are saying that in the comments I've seen on social media as well. So troubling times for them in terms of managers' expectations not aligning with the fans. My star man here is Kenneth Bowe of Boston United. He had 5 shots in the game against Solihull Moors, 2 shots on target, and obviously scored a goal. He's coming from Norwich City again in the summer, having been there last year, and I think pressing from the front, I think with his pace, with his athleticism, he's going to be a real threat for Boston. And he might not score, but I think he could be one who nicks the ball off Altrincham defenders and gets an assist for someone like Curzons, who may get off the mark this weekend. So I've gone for a 2-0 prediction for Boston here. I think home advantage, clean sheet, everything we've spoken about. Can't see anything else happening. Craig, I'll come to you for your prediction.
Yeah, Similarly, agree with a lot you said there. Lennon Wealdstone was excellent for them last week as well, wasn't he? Very good off the left. Boston to win this one quite comfortably. Altrincham banging trouble at the minute. 3-1 Boston. Dan?
Yeah, I echo pretty much what you guys have said. Not really much to add. I've gone 2-0, same as Louis. I think I worry for Altrincham a bit, and I think Boston just obviously that comfortable win over Solihull Moors helped them recover after that disappointing first game against Aldershot. Next up, it's me, Carlisle versus Hornchurch. I think maybe sounds a little bit dramatic, but I think Carlisle are heading into must-win territory already this early in the season. It sounds crazy to say on game 3, but I just feel like we are. First game, I think we dominated the first half against Worthing. Then Worthing second half put us to the swords. We were ruthless in front of goal. Yeovil started both halves quite well, but didn't really test the keeper throughout the game. Sloppy errors, sloppy mistakes again. Yeovil, deserving of the lead, obviously went down to 10 men, and then Bunker got the late equaliser that probably, polished over a poor performance. So we've got a point on the board. Like I say, it's entering must-win territory for Hornchurch. Absolutely flying. 3-0 win against Kidderminster first up. They seem to have a habit of scoring worldies as well, so I'd be charging down any 40-yard screamers they've got lined up, because I think it was Welsh against Kidderminster and then Kizzy against Barrow. Absolute worldies, so Carlisle can't sit off them and let them have shots, because they have a tendency to end up in the top corner. So obviously I said 3-0 Kidderminster win, and then they beat Barrow 2-1 last week. Hornchurch, 100% record so far. Can they continue that? With Carlisle, it is going to be tricky, because I think there's a lot of fans getting restless already. If Hornchurch scores first, could become a bit of a toxic atmosphere. Again, very much like I said about the Worthing game, this is the first meeting of the two sides in the league, so there's no head-to-head to go on this one. My star man, I'm going to go for Harvey Bunker. I think he's been our best player by far over our 2 games. Don't get me wrong, the bar hasn't been particularly high, but he just looks like a Rolls Royce for me. He played centre half in the first game, was the best player on the pitch, and second game against Yeovil, Rolls Royce in midfield, breaking down counter attacks, getting the goal, doing everything you want from your midfielder. My prediction for this one, I've got Carlisle 2, Hornchurch 1. I think it's going to be a close one. I think it could be a bit of an edgy one, but I don't even want to imagine a scenario where we don't win this game, to be perfectly honest with you. Louis, I'll come to you for your prediction, mate.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned it and touched on it already, but the first goal is massive in this game. You look at Hornchurch last week with their backs against the wall when they scored first, their experienced defensive lot. I'm copying you on this one. It was 2-2 with the same prediction for us, so I'm going 2-1 Carlisle as well. Craig?
Yeah, I've gone fairly similar for you on this one. I think Carlisle will just shut Hornchurch out. I think the longer it goes, it will get more and more nervy for Carlisle. So I've got them feeling they might score quite early in this one, and then eventually score a second to make it 2-0, but it'll still be a very nervy day for them. And yeah, if Hornchurch score first, I'd back them to get all 3 points. But I've also been told by the Hornchurch admin on social medias that I'm not allowed to back Hornchurch to win, because when I back them to lose, they've won. So yeah, I've got to back them to lose every week now, apparently. This could be bad for Carlisle if it goes wrong, but if not, it could be the start of something. Fine margins from football. Back to Dan for the next game.
Yeah, you're going to get fed up of listening to me, guys and girls, for a while.
What was your prediction, Craig?
Oh, yeah, you didn't give me a prediction, Craig?
2-0, sorry.
Sat on the fence.
2-0. I said they were get a clean sheet. 2-0.
Next up, it's Eastleigh versus Scunthorpe. Now, I found this one a tough one to call, to be honest, but Eastleigh beat Gateshead first game 2-1. Good win for them. We were heavily tipped to struggle, really, and then lost at Kidderminster last week. Obviously, you guys spoke about it on the podcast at the weekend, but I think that was more like the Eastleigh what we expected for the season rather than the win over Gateshead. Eastleigh at home, they will want to put on a performance, get a result. Scunthorpe drew 1-1 against Yeovil. I would say they were slightly fortunate first game. It was a late goal. I know, and I got told when I said it was fortunate, I didn't mean the performance. I think they played okay against Yeovil, but it was the manner of the late goal. And then they lost 1-0 against Southend last week. And that game, it was 1-0, but it could have been 5 or 6. Southend absolutely battered them pretty much throughout the game, missed a host of chances. Should have been more. So I think Scunthorpe are also entering that must-win kind of territory, get a result. And don't get me wrong, it's not going to be an easy game for them. And I think I think we, like on the preview pods for the season, we've had mixed reviews, but I think a lot of us had them outside the playoffs because we thought there was going to be a drop-off this season. And obviously they've had a struggle to start the season. But I think in this one, I think they have to get a result. Last season, Eastleigh won 1-0 at Scunthorpe. And in the obviously the same game, it was 1-1 in this game last season. So that's the head-to-heads. My star man for this one is Luke Brennan. I just think he might have that bit of quality in a game that might lack quality. I think obviously up front Scunthorpe are struggling at the minute as well in front of goal, but he had that bit of magic against Yeovil to get a point. I think he might have the bit of magic to get the win here. So I've gone for Eastleigh 1, Scunthorpe 2 in this one. Craig?
Yeah, you mentioned this game being 1-1 last season. I think it was 1-1 twice last season, wasn't it? Because they had to abandon one of them due to 2 unfortunate injuries at some stage as well. Yeah, Eastleigh, I think, reverted back to what we expected last week, but I think the home form will be so crucial. Scunthorpe, very underwhelming. They were lucky that Southend didn't hit them for 5 or 6, as you said. So I'm not going to back Scunthorpe on this one. I'm going to sit firmly on the fence. I'm going 1-1. Louis?
Yeah, I'll join you on that fence. This is such a tough one to call. I don't think Scunthorpe have got as much going forward as they did last year. So yeah, 1-1 for me.
Yeah, someone's going to gain some points somewhere. And then next up, it's me again. Sorry, I do apologise. Halifax versus Tamworth. Halifax, I actually think they probably gave a good account of themselves early on. We obviously thought they were going to struggle. They've lost some big players, but they couldn't have probably had a tougher start. They had Forest Green first game, lost 3-2 there, but pushed Forest Green, a very good side, all the way, really. Then they lost 3-1 at home to Boreham Wood at the weekend. A lot of that was self-inflicted, giving the ball away in key areas, mistakes. So I think in terms of challenging those teams, I think they've done well. I don't necessarily think they're in the must-win category at the moment because they've had a tough start, but I think this game is winnable for them. Tamworth obviously had that brilliant entertaining 3-3 draw against Boreham Wood first game. Didn't follow it up, which I expected them to, but obviously lost at home to Fylde at the weekend, which I think caught a few people off guard. So a bit of a mixed bag from them so far, but Donnelly has been a standout for them, scoring, I think, 3 goals now in 2 games for them. My star men for this one are Ben Tollett for Halifax and Donnelly for Tamworth. Now, that probably gives away what my result's going to be. Last season, this fixture was 2-2, and then Tamworth won 1-0 when it was at Tamworth. So for me, I'm sitting firmly on the fence on this one, and I've got a few draws this week, so it's going to have to be an extra strong fence this week. I'm going to go 1-1 for this one. Louis?
Yeah, I think it's the question of whether Halifax raised their game because they were playing against a Boreham Wood and a Forest Green, or is it the case that they are as good as they looked in those games and just didn't take the chances? I'm going 2-1 Halifax. I think they take the chances in this game and get the 3 points. Craig?
Yeah, I've got exactly the same as you on this one. My only concern with backing Halifax in this one is the only thing consistent about Tamworth probably over the last 6 months is how inconsistent they've been. You'd have probably backed them to get nothing from Boreham Wood and then beat Fylde at home, and they picked up a point at Boreham Wood and lost to Fylde. So you never know what Tamworth you're going to get. But if Halifax can cut out the mistakes but show the promise they have in the last 2 games, I think they'll get 3 points. And yeah, out of the teams that have got 0 points at the moment, they're probably the team that's happiest with their performances so far, I'd say. So yeah, I'm going to go just for a 2-1 Halifax win for this. Back to Louis for Forest Green versus Boreham Wood.
Yeah, you've teed me up very well there. I think this is arguably the game of the weekend. We've got 2 sides that played each other in the playoff eliminator last year. Obviously, Boreham were coming out on top after extra time. When you look at Forest Green, it's 2 back-to-back wins now from behind. They obviously beat Halifax 3-2 on the opening day, having been 1-0 down in the first half, and they beat Worthing 2-1 in their last game, having gone 1-0 down early in that one as well. And I think Craig said it on our previous podcast about them having a complete 90-minute performance if you put their 2 second-half performances against those 2 sides together. So it's about finding their consistency. Defensively, they've given up chances in both games, which I think is probably their issue. In the Halifax game, 11 shots 11 shots for Halifax, 4 shots on target for Halifax, and 1.48 expected goals. And in the Worthing game, a bit more, 12 shots from Worthing, 5 shots on target, and Worthing racked up a 2.81 expected goals. Especially in that first half, Worthing would have considered themselves maybe unlucky to not have gone further ahead or to have gone and won the game essentially. Offensively, Forest Green have been very good too, as we expect them to, with the quality they've got up the other end of the pitch. Against Halifax, 16 shots, 8 on target, 1.18 expected goals. Granted, they did outperform their expected goals in that game. Against Worthing, 16 shots, 7 of those on target, 2.63 expected goals. Forest Green need to find consistency in their performances over 90 minutes if they are to really challenge for those top 1, 2, 3 positions that we expected them to be earlier on in our pre-season predictions. And it's very similar Boreham Wood side, a side that have been that would have liked to have been unbeaten with 6 points, but they're unbeaten with 4 points after their 3-3 draw with Tamworth. Like Forest Green, they've given up chances defensively in both their games. The Tamworth game, it was a 2.29 expected goals for Tamworth, and in Halifax they conceded 9 shots and 4 of those were on target. Obviously just mentioned in our previous game that Halifax didn't take their chances and it came back to bite them on the bum. And Boreham Wood, as they always do, look a threat on going forward. Some of their movement in the game for the Halifax one was absolutely outstanding. I think in the lead up to a penalty shout, the movement off the ball just pulls the Halifax defenders in and out, and they don't know where to go. And when you've got a Boreham Wood side like that, it's going to be really difficult for those Forest Green defenders to keep track of players, especially the likes of Zach Brunt, Abdul Malik and Matt Rush, who we've waxed lyrical about on this podcast for ages. There will always be a threat when those players are there, but they've also got the depth now with Alarakia, Ali Wahad and Cashman up front as well. I think both these sides have gears to go through as well, so I think there's definitely more to come from them as the season progresses. My star men, the 2 strikers at the top end of the pitch, Matt Rush for Boreham Wood, 5 goals already this season. He's on track potentially to reach the Ollie Pearce level of numbers if he keeps his record going. I can see Craig looking very sheepish there given his pre-season prediction and whether he starts or not. But Ricardo Reis, I think they're a similar kind of player in the terms of where they pick up their goals from. He's been a sub in both games, Ricardo Reis. He had 2 shots against Worthing and scored 1 goal. I think both could be on the score sheet here. I've gone from a very exciting 3-3 draw in this one. Dan, I'll come to you for your prediction.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said there. Obviously I wasn't on the podcast at the weekend, but I just wanted to say I think this game could be decided with substitutions. I think Forest Green won their game at the weekend from the substitutions that were made at half time by Robbie Savage, and he got them spot on. The depth of both squads, like you mentioned as well. I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. So I've gone Desmond on this one. I've gone 2-2, but I can see a 3-3 as well, mate. Craig?
Yeah, I've decided to jump off the fence on this one. It's one that I could see a lot of people sit on the fence on. Very difficult to call. Both teams attacking better than they are defending. So one thing I think we're probably unanimous across all predictions is there will be goals in this game. There will be no 0-0 here. If there is, everyone will be very shocked. I've edged just towards the home team on this one. I think they've just maybe clicked a little bit more than Boreham Wood. And they've got maybe a little bit more depth still than Boreham Wood as well. So, yeah, substitutions can make a big impact on this. If they can stop Abdul Malik, they're going to be he's going to be dangerous, of course. But if they can stop him, stop the source to Rush, then I think they will just get over the line 2-1. But it's going to be very marginal. It wouldn't surprise me if this is a game where, when our predictions get released on Friday, that it's gone all 3 ways. It's obviously gone 2 ways already on this one. It could easily go any of the 3 ways on this one. And the next game is myself. It's Harrogate versus Barrow. The 2 relegated teams from the EFL from League 2. Interestingly, in this game last season, Barrow won both. Harrogate won both of them 1-0. And that's been the theme for the start of the season as well. Harrogate flying, 2 wins from 2, scored 8 goals. And Barrow have only scored 1 and lost both games. They lost 2-0 to Hartlepool and 2-1 to Hornchurch. So 2 teams in contrasting form, or if you can class 2 games as form, which you can't really too much at this stage in the season. But yeah, Harrogate looking very sharp, very much attacking threat. Got lots of young, exciting prospect. Brad Dollaham, Archie Baptiste, Will McGowan. They've got the likes of Sean Mikowski in there for his experience as well. Tom Lees obviously has been injured, but his experience around the camps. They seem to have got that blend between inexperience. I'm going to change that word to youth, because just because they're youth doesn't mean they're inexperienced. Some of these have had a lot of games at step 2 as well. And the experience of Tom Lees around the camp as well. Barrow, they've signed some players who have competed in the National League before, but haven't got it clicking as such yet. Some of their players, like Danny Rose, haven't really featured yet. Alex Reed's been out injured, only been a sub in the first game. So it's not really clicked for them. And Louis spoke on our last podcast about what are they going to do? Are they going to give him Adam Murray the time, or are they going to twist soon? And it created good discussion with the Barrow fans on that one. And I think the majority want him to have the time as well to see how this one goes. So they're not at panic stations yet. But if they go 3 defeats from 3, then that's a whole nother week of obviously panicking and getting towards that dreaded conversation as well. My star player for this one is Brad Dollahan. I've just mentioned him. 1 goal so far this season, but it's what he does off the ball as much that he links all the play up for me. He drops into pockets to create spaces. You looked at some of their goals at the weekend. I think the right back scored one, but he was in spaces where Dollahan's dragged defenders out. So yeah, I've been really impressed with him so far. So yeah, I'm going Harrogate 2, Barrow 1. Dan?
Yeah, I echo pretty much what you said there. Obviously, Harrogate free scoring, playing well. Barrow struggling to start with. I do think it'll come right for Barrow. I think Adam Murray's a good manager. Just it depends how much time it takes and whether he gets that time, like Louis mentioned. I've gone 3-1 Harrogate on this one. Louis?
Yeah, you mentioned Brad Dollahan here. I think it could be 2-2 for him because I think I've heard rumours that he maybe got a touch on that Archie Baptiste volley in the first game. So he's on good form going into it. So we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, I've gone 3-1 Harrogate on this one as well. I think Barrow will click at some point. It's just going to take a couple more weeks for them and they need to be patient with Adam Murray because he is a good manager overall. I believe that brings me on to Kidderminster versus Aldershot as my next game. So a chalk and cheese start to the season for Kiddy. The opening day defeat at Hornchurch, which we mentioned, Dan previewed the Carlisle game, out battled, out everything. They were completely dreadful in that game, second best in everything. They only had four shots on the day and one of those was on target and a 1.01 expected goals figure for them. An Eastleigh side in their game when they won 1-0, 9 shots for Kidderminster, 5 on target, and a fairly convincing performance. They went from all of their players being 4 or 5 out of 10 on the opening day to all of them having 7 or 8 out of 10 in the second game of the season, and that goes a long way, just dragging the overall improvement of the team up. And that gives you a good platform to go on and get a result, which they did against Eastleigh. The question is whether that performance is down to Eastleigh being poor, considering they only had 1 shot on target during the game, or was it that Kidderminster have turned a corner and now look good? Obviously, Wint came in on loan from Manchester City, didn't play in the first game, but came in against Eastleigh. Didn't have much to do, as I said, only 1 shot on target faced, but he looked commanding in his possession of the ball, as you expect players from Manchester City Academy to look like. So they looked like they picked up a good addition there in goal. Amanchi got off the mark, which I think will be a big thing for him. Craig's obviously spoken about whether he can match it at the level and score goals in the National League with a few hit and misses so far in his career, but it's massive for him to get off the mark, and maybe that's the start he needs to maybe kick on this season and be the main man for Kidderminster. And Fayake in defence, I don't know whether I've said that right, he came in last week against Eastleigh. I was close to swearing on that one, so I maybe swerved away from that one, but he made a massive difference. Obviously clean sheet for them, 21-year-old who's joined from Peterborough Sports, I believe, as well. So Kidderminster fans were raving about his performance in the comments on social media as well. And an Aldershot side that I think probably have been one of the teams that I've been quite surprised about in terms of where we expected them to be. We obviously spoke about the players they brought in and some of the mass changes that they've had, but they went to a Boston side and they performed quite well offensively. 14 shots, 5 shots on target, 1.37 expected goals, and against Hartlepool 12 shots, 3 on target, and a 1.82 expected goals, but only a 1.06 non-penalty expected goals. Marcus Denanga obviously put his on Mars, and I think it's still flying in the atmosphere, that penalty, so take that away, maybe they didn't create as many chances, but their performances I think that Aldershot can build upon. It seems as though the consensus is that they maybe could have got something against Hartlepool if they were just that bit more clinical in the final third with their ball, or taking those half chances that they had. They're 2 tough games that Aldershot have had on paper as well, so I'm leaning towards them on this one. My star man is Basil Tuma, the Malta international. He's 21-year-old. He's joined from Slough on the right wing. He's had a really good game against Hartlepool. 69% of his ground duels he won. He looks like a pacey dribbler. He looks like a raw player who's got good attributes, but maybe just needs that kind of teething moment in the National League to be able to play at that level. But it might be that playing against the National League North side in Kidderminster last year, he is someone that might be able to thrive against an opposition that he might enjoy playing against. For this game, I have gone for Aldershot to win it. I think they're further ahead in their preparation, so to speak, for this season. So I've gone 2-1 Aldershot on this one. Dan?
Yeah, you've covered it pretty well there, to be fair. This is one of the games I just can't quite call. I do think, obviously, Aldershot done well against Hartlepool, but I think people saying, they should have got something, it was because of the penalty more than anything else. So I think, for me, a point here for both teams would be good for both teams. So I'm sitting on the fence again, lads. 1-1. Craig?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Aldershot so far this season. I think they should and could have got a point against Hartlepool, so they'd have been delighted with 4. Obviously, they've just ended up with 3 points after 2, but I'm back and getting another 3 here. Chuma was outstanding against Braintree in the second half as well, so yeah, I think he's a really good prospect, and obviously Scott Davis knows him very well. So I've gone exactly the same as Louis on this one. I've gone 2-1 to Aldershot on this one. Moving on to the next game, it's Solihull Mills versus Southend. Now let's start with the home side first. Probably the team, maybe alongside Altrincham, that have had the worst start to the season. Woking, you could put in that bracket as well. Played 2, lost 2, conceded 7 goals, scored 2. Obviously, in that 3-minute mental spell against Harrogate, they managed to grab 2 goals from set pieces. But other than that, they've been pretty poor. All the claims on social media is their best player has been their goalkeeper. When you've conceded 7 goals and Max Metcalf is making our team of the week and getting plaudits from opposition fans and your own fans, you know you're in a little bit of trouble there. There's talk of the cohesion not being right there, players not having the best of time. It was interesting they played the National League Cup. I know we don't mention it too much in here, and went quite strong in it to maybe try and play into some form. And I think they actually end up losing that game to Middlesbrough as well. I believe, is that correct? 2-1, I think it was. So we 3-1. 3-1 in the end. So yeah, we talked about in our group chat trying to play players into form, but if you lose those games, it can even crank up the pressure on them even more, which it might have done in this case. And tough test for them. I'd argue at the moment the test doesn't come any tougher than Southend United, who last week we talked about complete performances. The only reason they didn't get the bracket of complete performance is because they couldn't put the ball in the net more than once. Their performance deserved to go in and score more than 1 goal. But the caveat to only scoring 1 is you never felt Scunthorpe were going to score. They were always in control of the game. They managed it extremely well. The 2 midfielders were outstanding. Obviously, the wide options they've got. Kamara started this one. He came off the bench in the first one. He's been fantastic. Cardwell's looked a better player this season. I don't want to say he's past his injury problems because obviously it's only been 2 games, but in them 2 games he's been maybe the number 9 they were hoping for, and maybe that's why they haven't been in the market so much. I know Samson Tavide's been training with them, but I don't think that's a signing that's going to happen because they'd have to give Colchester compensation for that one. So I think it's one where at the minute they're sticking with what they've got, but we know they've got money in the bank to strengthen through the Harry Boyce sale if they need to, because supposedly there was money for a striker before they even sold him. So that's topped up even more, especially when they got an excellent replacement in McAdam for absolutely nothing as well in the left-back position as well. That can always help with budgeting elsewhere. My star player, I've already mentioned him once, and he's a player I was a fan of and I've spoken about quite a lot on here and TikTok. Heath Kamara. My caveat to that is they've got such good depth in the wing players, he might not even start the game because that's how good their wingers are. But with his 2 performances in the first games, he should be starting. But with the rotation option, he got an assist against Alti, and he was rewarded with a start against Scunthorpe. And when our team of the week went out, there was question marks why he wasn't in there. Southend fans were saying he was the best player on the pitch alongside Darren Aldiker. So outstanding from him. His pass led to the goal. I think his Cardwell's shot was saved and Papula turned it in. So yeah, he's looked very lively over pre-season. And again, my argument as a Braintree fan is, can he turn that into the numbers? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But you can see Southend down there a lot of the ball, so he's going to get lots of opportunities to run at his fullback in this one. And I think it's going to be a very routine away victory here. I'm going Solihull 0, Southend 3. Dan?
Yeah, pretty much just same as what you said. Obviously for Southend, I think Solihull moves have been so poor and there for the taking for Southend, especially if Southend want to carry on obviously their fantastic start. I've got 3-1 Southend in this one. Louis?
Yeah, I've gone 4-0 Southend on this one. I just think this is the perfect opportunity for them to just take those chances that they missed last week. And a Solihull Moor side that we've said are at 6s and 7s everywhere. Yeah, complete mess off the pitch and on the pitch at the moment as well.
Let's hope we're not coming on Saturday evening or Sunday, whenever we're recording, to a 1-0 Solihull win.
Yeah, we'll all be dipping into humble pie, I think, if that's the case there. And I think most people will be unexpected win for Solihull Moors. Moving on to Sutton United against Hartlepool. As we said, two sides with a 100% record in the division so far this season out of 2 games. So something has to give here. For the home side, been a stronger defensive unit than we have offensively so far this season. In the Woking game, we faced 9 shots during it, 1 shot on target from Woking, and they racked up, as always, I'm going to bring out the XG, 0.68 expected goals for Woking against Sutton in the opening weekend. And then against Altrincham, as I mentioned on the Altrincham preview, Altrincham had 3 shots, on one of those on target, and they had a 0.15 expected goals figure, so they were really toothless in front of goal. But is that down to Altrincham, or is that down to Sutton's strong defensive unit turning it around from last year with the experienced players that have been brought in? From an attacking point of view, over the 2 games combined, we've had 14 shots in the 2 games, 10 shots on target, and we've racked up 1.61 expected goals, but managed to score 4 goals in total, so overscoring our expected goals. Can that continue? I think there's gears for us to go through in terms of our attacking output. I think we've got a few more combinations to come off. We've got the likes of Brandon Njoku, who's come back from operation on his knee, I believe it was. He played 60 minutes in the midweek in the cup action, and Charlie Carter could be in the squad this weekend as well. Hadn't featured because he's been injured, picked up an injury during pre-season, so he could be one that comes back and adds that bit of final quality in the final third that maybe, specifically the Altrincham game, has been lacking from us. I think Nightingale has been outstanding from us. What a great addition he's been, just a leader at the back. And Hartlepool, very similar aspect as well. As I said, 100% record, solid defensively, and I think there's more to come from them during the Barrow game. They had 6 shots, 5 shots on target, 0.39 expected goals faced, and against Aldershot, 9 shots, 3 shots on target and a 1.28 expected goals. That's Hartlepool's stats, going forward, not their defensive stats against them, but they're always going to have chances going for them with the likes of Jack Nolan, Will Harris, Chris Popoff in the team. They're always going to be there or thereabouts in terms of being able to sniff out chances, even if they are half chances. There's been lots of praise for Clark on social media. I've seen after the Aldershot game, questioned whether he was the right man for the job at the beginning of the season, but a lot of people are saying he's got his substitutions spot on during games, and I think Hartlepool are playing at 60-70% so far this season with 2 clean sheets and with 2 wins on the board. So yeah, they've got gears to go through as well. So it could be interesting to see who maybe takes that next step in terms of the gears that they go through in this weekend. My star men, Will Nightingale for Sutton, 16 recoveries during the game against Altrincham, 100% of his ground duels won, 67% of his aerial duels he won as well. And then for Hartlepool have gone for their centre-back as well. Maxime Kurigan against Aldershot won 66% of his ground duels, 100% of his aerial duels, and he got 11 ball recoveries during the game as well. For this game, I've gone for 0-0. I'm expecting 2 sides that are defensively solid, and I can see it being 1-0 either side with a set piece or a screamer from distance from maybe a Jack Nolan or an Omar Musa, but I'm sitting on the fence big style here. I'm going 0-0. Dan, I'll come back to you.
I actually toyed with 0-0 for this just because both sides strong defensive displays, but they've also got good attacking options, especially Hartlepool. So I just can't see them not scoring. So I've gone for 1-1 in this one. But 2 sides that have started the season fantastically well. I think this could be another good game as well, but maybe not quite as entertaining as the Forest Green Boreham Wood game. Craig?
Yeah, I toyed with a 0-0 on this one as well. I think chess match was the one that came to mind. Neither team would want to blink in this one. Both defensively solid. Maybe a set piece each in it, again, is what I've gone for in this one. So yeah, don't want to repeat what you guys said too much, but yeah, I've gone 1-1. The next game is Woking versus Fylde. Now, both teams have made signings in the last couple of days, and both have made excellent signings, in my opinion. I have to make sure I get this name right for the first player. Anthony Georgiou, I believe his name is, has signed for Woking on a short-term contract. I believe, we know he was at Wealdstone last season. I believe he was actually at trial at Southend earlier in the summer as well, and it didn't quite get the move. So he's now got a short-term move as they've got injuries in that position. I believe it's Richards has got injured for Woking in that position, and it just seems a no-brainer for me. National League experience, good player. He can easily earn himself a longer move with this one, or put himself in the window for somebody else later on in the season. So yeah, great move for them in that one. Just one that, when you look at it, just makes logical sense, really, doesn't it? They've got a gap in that position. They've signed a National League proven player. AFC Fylde, I don't think any of us saw this one coming. Greg Ollie from York City. Everything the last couple of weeks has pointed to him being featured for York City, but I know they're not with us anymore, but we've all seen what's gone on there in the last couple of weeks, and suddenly he's become available, and Fylde somehow found out before everyone else or tempted him into the move, and it's an excellent signing. Obviously, he had his injuries issues. There's no doubt about that. I think he missed pretty much the whole season when he was at Gateshead. And now he didn't quite get back to his best last year and didn't play every single game, but that York team was incredible. So if you're a squad player in that York team and you play 30 to 40 games or however many you end up playing, you're definitely still a very good player. So I think that's a great signing. I did see people today saying it was the first part of a move for Danny Ormerod going the other way. I'm not buying that, I'm afraid, at the moment. I think Fylde will be able to keep him beyond the end of the EFL window this time. I think if he hits the heights that he might do, then January might be a bit harder to keep him. But I think he'll still be there at the moment. Moving on to the game now, once we've covered them two transfers. Woking played 2, lost 2, yet to score. 3-0 away at Sutton, 2-0. Sorry, 3-0 at home to Sutton and 2-0 away at Gateshead. 2 poor performances. 2 performances that scream of still in pre-season. As Craig Ross has said, they're still in their pre-season. They played last night in the National League Cup. Got a clean sheet in that one. I think it was a 0-0 that went to penalties. I'm not sure the penalties, which way that went, but you shouldn't have penalties in a group stage anyway, so I don't really care. And yeah, that might help play them into form. We spoke about that with Solihull. Woking did get a semi-positive result here, so that will help them in that sense as well. Fylde played 2, 1-1 and drawn 1, so 4 points. I'd argue they probably should have had 6 from that. I think they were the better side against Wealdstone and should have beat them. And then Tamworth, the away performance was incredible. No doubt that was probably one of the performances of the day last week. They were outstanding. Ormerod got his first goal, so everything was in the right direction for Fylde there. My star man for this game is Timmy Akinola in the centre midfield for Woking. I think he needs to grab this game. Woking needs someone that's going to grab a game for them and pull them through. He's an excellent player. He's featured in the first 2 games, but maybe not hit his heights of previous seasons because there has been talk of him moving on from Woking previously. He needs to grab this game. He's got so many different attacking options in front of them that none of them have hit the heights yet. Obviously, they haven't scored a goal in 2 games plus the National League Cup. They need a centre mid to just pull the troops through this, get a scrappy win, and then build on from there. So I have got Woking to win this one 2-1. Louis?
I'm going the other way around. I'm going Woking's goal drought to continue. I'm going 2-0 AFC Fylde. Dan?
I've got good news and bad news for Woking. The good news is I've predicted them to score a goal. The bad news is Fylde are going to score 1 more. So I'm going 2-1 Fylde. Craig?
Yeah, it's a tough one to call, that one. I think I just feel like Woking will get out of it. But who knows? They could have a new manager by then. Who knows? They could have somebody in the stands watching. Things can change very quickly. Moving from Woking to Worthing now. Worthing versus Wealdstone. Worthing have had a very tough start, haven't they, in terms of their games? They went to Carlisle, and we know how incredible the second half was there. They won 3-2. And then they had an incredible first half against Forest Green. As Louis spoke about earlier, could have been further ahead than the 1 goal. They've made a mistake. Their goalkeeper, Harrison Folks, has made a poor mistake and they've ended up losing the game 2-1, which you could talk about Forest Green's quality, but if Worthing could have potentially won that game in the first half as well. Wealdstone, pretty poor start. They grabbed a point against Fylde. I've just spoke about Fylde being the better side in that one. You can look at it on 2 ways. Wealdstone have grabbed the point out of nowhere, or you can look at their fighting qualities to get that point as well. Then they had moments against Harrogate in a 3-1 defeat. It was 1-1 for a little while. They had chances. I'm not an XG man, but I imagine Lou would be telling us Wealdstone's XG was actually quite high in that one. So they'd be disappointed again not to get more out of it. But they've conceded 5 goals in 2 games, so they're going to have alarm bells going defensively as well for them. Baptiste made a mistake for the first goal, shall we say, pushed one back out. So that's something that they're going to look to rectify as well. And they're still in a transition period because a lot of their signings came in very late in the summer as well, especially the last couple of days before the training season started. And even they've had some more additions since the season started as well. My star man for this one is Razak Coleman de Graaf. Bit of a mouthful there. But he got a goal on opening day. It was a fantastic finish against Carlisle. He had a second disallowed on match day 2 for a push, but even then the finish was of high quality as well. He had 22 goal involvements last season in the National League South with 13 goals and 9 assists. He seems to have taken to the National League very well. We often talk about can players make that step up. A goal on opening day will always help their confidence there. And I've got Worthing winning this one fairly comfortably. I've got Worthing 3, Wealdstone 1. Louis?
Yeah, you mentioned that the XG on the Wealdstone Harrogate game. Wealdstone actually had a higher expected goals figure than Harrogate in that game. It was just the case that they didn't take the chances when they were on top. I think this is a game that Worthing, having faced two tough sides already, it's a game that they can dictate and they can play their style of football in a game that they're at home as well. So, yeah, I'm fully on board with Worthing getting this one. And I have gone the same as you, Greg. I've gone 3-1. Dan?
Yeah, for us that's here, we've got a full house here. I've got Worthing to win as well, but I've gone 2-0. I think it'll be a game that, like Louis said, they can control it, whereas they've been up against it, playing maybe a bit more counter-attack against the Carlisles, the Forest Greens. Now they can really showcase themselves. So 2-0 Worthing for me. And then last up, you'll hear from me again. I've had a bit of a break after that little spell earlier on. Yeovil versus Gateshead. You can see Craig sitting back now. His work's done. He's just going to get the cigar and the slippers out and he's sorted. But yeah, Yeovil drawn both games, first two games, 2 late goals in both of them games, so that they will feel like they should have 6 points, and they probably should. Definitely the Carlisle game, they should have got 3 points from that. The Scunthorpe game, you could argue Scunthorpe maybe deserved something. Gateshead lost their opener to Eastleigh. We've obviously tipped them to struggle, but they got that win over Woking at the weekend. That's huge for them. Clean sheet as well. A lot of positives to be taken from that. Last season, believe it or not, Gateshead done the double over Yeovil last season, even though you think Gateshead were pretty poor for a long period of last season. Gateshead won 2-1 at their place, and then I don't know if you both remember the iconic game, this same fixture last season that spelt the end of Mark Cooper, when Yeovil were 3-0 up at half-time, and then Gateshead went on to win 4-3. And a lot of Yeovil fans were happy with that, to be fair, because it was the end of Mark Cooper's reign, I believe. So, again, entertaining game, goals in that. Yeovil, I think, a totally different prospect this season. We spoke about their recruitment. I'm not going to go over it again, but they brought in some really quality players. I still expect them to do this season, even though they haven't had a win yet. My star man, Stephen Walker, I was really impressed with him against Carlisle. He did come off after about an hour or so, but his movement, his runs in behind, his hold-up play, the Carlisle defence couldn't handle it. And I'd imagine the Gateshead defenders are going to have the same issues with Walker, with his movement, with his finishing ability. And for me, that's why he's my star man. So I've actually gone a really comfortable home win. I think Yeovil won't want to leave it to chance like they have in the last couple of games where they've not put the game to bed and they've ended up paying the price. So I've gone Yeovil 3, Gateshead 0 in this one. Louis?
Yeah, even the off-pitch stuff, Gateshead having to go down to Yeovil for a 12:30 kickoff on a Saturday says it all as well. I've gone 2-0 Yeovil on this one. Craig?
Yeah, same as you, Louis. 2-0 Yeovil on this one. Nearly said 2-0 Gateshead on that one. 2-0 Yeovil. Massive respect to any Gateshead fans who make the travel because, yeah, it's 12:30 kickoff. Obviously, Zone have their reasons for it with every game kicking off at 12:30 due to all 5 games being televised for each team during August. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one for them. But, yeah, Yeovil have got some real quality, but will they have the scar? If it's 1-0 late on, will they have the scars from the last 2 weeks in there as well?
That's the thing, isn't it? And then I'm saying now I'm 3-0 Yeovil, but I'm not going to lie. If it's 3-0 at half time, I will worry about last season. I will be worried about that. But yeah, like Craig said there, credit to any Gateshead fan that's making that trip. To be fair, anyone who's making the away trip for the 12:30 kickoffs is a big commitment. So well done to anybody who's doing that. But that's it for our preview and predictions. Thanks to Louis and Craig as always. We'll be getting Mark's predictions in as well. And obviously our community, our guest, will be getting all that in as well. And that'll be going out on our socials today or tomorrow when this pod goes out. They'll be out as well. So get involved. Let us know what you think. If you think we're wrong, I'm sure you'll let us know as well. But yeah, thanks as always to Craig and Louis. I nearly said Mark, but Mark's not here. And we'll see Mark again at the weekend.
Don't thank him. He's not here.
Yeah, he's not here. Thanks for not turning up, Mark. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe while you're here. Hype us as well. I don't really know what that does, but hype us. 5 stars on Spotify as well, which Louis reminded me to say on a previous pod as well. So yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll see you again next time. And we've just got a close up of Craig's face to finish off. Take care.